Hi to everyone again, and welcome to everyone. So today we are very happy to welcome our dear Dr. Omni Ibrahim from Alexandria University to our MA class. And before we begin, let me briefly introduce her to you. Omni did her PhD and postdoc research in computational linguistics and acoustic phonetics at the University of Zurich and Saarland universities. So her research mainly focuses on acoustic phonetics and computational approaches to speech, and especially she is looking at the interaction between information density and channel characteristics. So today she is here to give us a session on Praat scripting. Personally, I know dear Omnia from my time at Saarland University, I guess approximately 4 or 5 years ago. So she really helped me to improve my scripting and statistical skills, and I learned a lot from her during my stay at Saarbrücken. She's a great lecturer, a very successful researcher, and also a very deeply dear friend of mine. So we are really grateful that she made time for us despite her busy schedule. And additionally, we are very happy to have the new and old members of our Phonetics lab team joining us today. So we have students from different states around Turkey, and we thank them for being here as well. So wait a minute, I'm admitting one more student too. I'm sorry. And so, Omnia, thank you so much for being here and being with us today. We are very excited to have you. Now the floor is yours. Thank you.
Oh, thank you, Pinar, for this nice introduction, and thank you for introducing me to your students and colleagues. Yeah, I'm really excited actually to meet all of you. So yeah, it's really nice to see all of you. Yeah, I mean, you already introduced me, Pinar, so I don't think I need to reintroduce myself, but maybe just to give you like a small, like about my experience. So I did my bachelor degree and master's degree here in Alexandria, in phonetics and linguistics. And I think it's a little bit different than a Praat because here we have like almost half of our subjects are in phonetics. So we have a lot of phonetic subjects. And basically, I am a phonetician since day one. After that, I traveled to Zurich to start my PhD in Switzerland. And it was actually one of the advantages, I would say, in my CV was that I was able to write Praat scripts. So they said, oh yeah, you have a familiar or you are experienced with writing scripts, and yeah, they need it for the project. And yeah, it started from there, basically. After my PhD, I did my postdoctoral in Germany, in Saarland, as Pinar said, where I met her. And yeah, I was really lucky to have the postdoctoral there. And after that, I came back home. Now I'm a lecturer at Alexandria University in Phonetics and Linguistics department, and also in Forensic Phonetics and Linguistics program, which is a different program here, where I teach a lot of phonetics and phonology subjects and courses, but also like machine learning, language engineering, a lot of computational linguistics as well. Because basically my PhD was I could say like computational phonology, if I can say that, because basically I was trying to understand more phonetics and phonology phenomena, but using computational tools and statistics. So yeah, I was lucky enough to have this in my PhD, and I'm lucky to teach this here now in Alexandria. And I don't know, maybe next time I will be somewhere else, so maybe in our next talk, but for now I'm in Alexandria University. So I would love actually to know more about you, so feel free to contact me after the talk to talk about your studies in general, or Praat, or anything relates to also studying abroad, how I traveled. So for example, I found my PhD position was through Linguistics, which is a website maybe you already know, where I applied for the project. So if you have any questions, just feel free to contact me, and I'll be happy to answer you if I can. So Praat, I mean, Praat have been here for really, really long time. I mean, it's almost more than 30 years ago. And do we really need to still know about Praat? Do we really need to learn how to use Praat and how to do Praat script? I mean, now there is a lot of new technologies, right? I mean, we can use Python to do the same thing. I mean, for sometimes we had like MATLAB, maybe you heard about it, where you can do some audio signal processing. So why Praat? Why we still need to learn Praat for now and also for future? Basically, Praat is really, really easy to use. if you have experience with Praat, you know that it's actually have a lot of default setting, so you don't really need to think about it that much. You can just use any function where it's already there, and you can already have the spectrogram. You can have the fundamental frequency if you want to calculate it, intensity, any feature. Really, really easy, just with a click. So yeah, it is easy to use, and usually we use it to visualize and do segmentation, because I also know from Pinar that you already learned how to do textigrade. So textigrade is really, really important. So because for me now, I work also in speech technology, like in text-to-speech and automatic speech recognition. And to be honest, with big companies, we still use Praat. We use Praat to do textigrade and do the segmentation because it's easy to use. And also we can use Praat to do like all the analysis that we want, like a spectral analysis with temporal analysis. Any analysis we want, we can do it on the audio signal. And also we can do some manipulation on the signal. Of course, we do that when we do some perceptual experiment, for example. And maybe we want all the audio to be in a specific level or so, like intensity level. We can use Praat to do that. So Praat is really easy to use, but at the same time have a lot of functionality that we can reuse in multiple times. But now we will go actually to Praat script, right? So why Praat script? Because I just said that Praat is really easy and you can do everything on Praat. So why do I need to go and learn how to do Praat script? Personally, I have learned a lot and used a lot of programming languages in general, like almost any programming language you heard about it. I tried it before. But Praat script is one of the easiest scripts to write. And it doesn't require that you have any programming background. So any one of us can start like opening Praat script and start using it. And it's easy to use, and it's also can save you a lot of time. Because of course I can measure fundamental frequency, for example, for one vowel, for two vowels. But let's say I have 100 speakers. So how can I don't have time to spend to have like measure manually all the fundamental frequency for all the vowels, for example. So the first thing, why do we use Praat script? Because of course it saves time. And also it improves like the accuracy of my measures. Because for example, the one thing I see a lot with my students that when we measure vowel formants, so usually I tell them you have to identify where the vowel is, and then you go to the midpoint exactly and measure the formants. Of course, every time they try to do the same, but then maybe after 2 hours of working, they get tired or they are not really focusing, not paying attention. And then of course they are not exactly in the midpoint, maybe a little bit to the right, a little bit to the left. And definitely this will affect the accuracy of the values that they will have at the end. But of course, Praat script will not get tired. I mean, it will do the same thing since the beginning and the end of the session. So this is really important. That's why I usually encourage my students to use Praat script instead of Praat when they do all of the analysis for their graduation projects, for example. And definitely it can handle like big data, as I mentioned. I mean, of course it will take time. I mean, you will leave your laptop working for maybe a day or so, but you can use it for like 100 speaker, like also even more. I tried it myself with 100 speakers, so I'm not really sure about more, but definitely it will work in principle. And also Praat script can help us with really using it, redoing it actually. Because for example, I guess Pinar also had the same issue when we write a paper or research paper. So of course I did my analysis, I used my Praat script, I get all the values, and then I wrote the paper. When I submitted it to a journal and then I got the reviews back, they mentioned, oh, you should maybe redo the analysis and it changed this part or so. Of course, it will take me a really, really long time to redo all the analysis by myself if I don't have a Praat script. If I'm doing it manually, it will take a lot of time. But if I already have the script ready, I can maybe change 1 or 2 things and then I can rerun it again and just change the numbers. So it's really, really helpful when we have Praat script that to reuse it again. And especially in phonetics, I mean, the same phonetic or features, acoustic features, you will keep using it again and again. I mean, fundamental frequency, vowel formants, intensity, speaking rate, voice onset time. I mean, all of these features, you can reuse it again multiple times. So it will be really nice if you have already script with us. And yeah, I mean, I have a lot of more here, like why we should use Praat script. I don't want to spend all the time why we should do it, but I think it's actually really good skills that we should develop over time. And now let's go to like the first part of like, why do I have to learn how to do Praat script? Because maybe you're already asking this question. Okay, it's a great script, but maybe I'm good at Python, so I can use Python or R, I mean, to some extent, but Python more, for example, for audio signal processing. Why do I really need to use Praat and Praat script? First of all, I mean, sometimes you will need to write your own script. Depend on your studies, depend on your research you're doing in the moment. Sometimes you need to write a script to do a specific task for you. So it's nice that you know how to write a script. But more important, Praat have a really, really big community. So a lot of people around the world is using Praat. And therefore, you will see a lot of Praat scripts already online. And I want you, when you download any Praat script, you know how to read it. You know, to know, oh, okay, this is what I want, this is what I need or not. So it's really important at least not to write, but at least to know how to read other people's Praat script. But definitely, I encourage you to do your own script, because sometimes when you download something, I mean, most of the time, it will not be exactly what you want. It will be, maybe they have more features they are extracting that you don't need, or they are not doing exactly the way that you wanted, or you don't understand what they did. And then it makes it more difficult for you to report it in your paper. So to be honest, I advise you as well to write your own script, so at least you know exactly what's inside what each line is doing. Okay. So this is exactly like what I was saying about my goals here. And today I will try to be, I mean, I will give it really, really basics. So if someone already know Praat script, so I'm sorry in advance. So today is the basics. And but even with these basics, it will help you to read other people's scripts. And I guess this is my main goal today. And I personally, I didn't have any formal training to how to write Praat script. I just go and learn it myself. So it's really easy to learn. You don't really need an instruction for it. Okay, first thing, I mean, where is Praat script? Where is the window where I can write the script itself? How to open it? I mean, of course, if for example, if you have Mac like me, if you open Praat, you will find in the top menu like Praat, and then you have new Praat script or open Praat script if you already have something already saved in your computer, or you can open a new one. And when you open a new Praat script, you have it totally empty. And of course, about Praat in general, nothing is automatically saved. So you need to save it yourself, like save the current script somewhere in your computer and keep saving it when you are working, because of course you don't want your program to crash and then you're not saving it and then you lose all of the work you already did. So try to keep saving it all the time. And when you open the Praat script, I mean, you have like two ways of running it. So you either run, so if you have run, it will basically run all the script from the first line to the last line. But also during when you are still developing your script, sometimes you want to see like the value or the output of a certain line. Then you can select this line and then say run script or run selection. And then run selection will basically run only the selected lines that you already selected. Okay. So one of my, like the first advice, I will try to give you advices along the talk today, but the first one is use your Praat history. So everything you do, once you open your Praat in general, you will, Praat will keep it in the memory. So they will save exactly each step you did since you opened Praat. And definitely you can use this to your advantage in your script. Because definitely none of us wants to have like a white editor where we should start writing our script. I mean, we don't like this in general, even for our thesis or a paper. When you have like an empty sheet in front of you, sometimes you get a writer block and then you don't know where to start, right? Or sometimes you want to do something and you know how to do it on Praat, like by clicks, but then you have no idea how to write it in Praat script. So Praat have it like this advantage where they say, okay, I will save every step you do, and then you can basically paste your history in Praat script, and then you will have it in your editor. So for example, here, I have an audio file, and then I want to extract part. You know, usually we do that when we, for example, want to extract part of the sentence, for example. So when I put extract part, it opened this window which have some parameters or some like they ask me exactly what I want. Like for example, what's the time range from where to where? Because of course, definitely I have the audio file. I want to extract some part of it. So what is the range? Also, the shape of the window, like exactly how it will cut this audio, and some more information. So yeah, a lot of us know how to do it on Praat, but then how to do it on Praat script? Of course, if I just paste this part on Praat script, it will turn all of these steps to exactly this script line. So it says extract part, and then you have some numbers. I guess a lot of us have this issue when you download some script from online, and then you see like a lot of numbers and like what these numbers represent. These numbers are basically the values that you would add in general if you are using Praat normally. So for example, here is the range from 0 to 0.1. It's exactly here. Okay, so don't feel overwhelmed when you see a lot of numbers. It just means that this is the values that you add for this function to happen. Okay, and also pay attention that usually in Praat script, functions start with capital letter. Okay, like extract part, like extract is in capital letters. This is the way you mentioned to your script that this is a function. You need to go and do something. And so here you see all the values that would normally be in that window. So instead of just starting your Praat script from scratch, I always advise you to use the history to help you in the common functions that you want to do in Praat. I hope I'm not. Can you hear me like clearly, right? Because sometimes I have a notification from my internet.
Yeah, we hear correctly.
Okay, yeah. Clearly as well. I mean, if there's anything, please just use your voice so I can hear that there is something.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so let's continue. In a Praat script, usually what we usually do with Praat scripts. For example, I would love to measure vowel formants for all the vowels that I have. Or I want to extract fundamental frequency. I want to extract like voice report, for example. So first of all, I need to identify or like mention to the script what object I need to work on. Because normally when you have normal Praat like interface, we select the object first. So we select, for example, the sound, and then you will see all the functions that you can do on that sound. We need to do the same. So selecting objects is one of the most important things that we need to do on Praat script at beginning, because usually we have this, like you can select it, and once you select any object, you will see the functions that you can do on it. But then on Praat script, it's a little bit different, and that we need to be aware of what object we are selecting. So in Praat script, you can say select object. Of course, it's easy. It means select object, right? And then you say text grid vowel. So basically, it will look from the open files here, and it will look for the text grid which named vowels. And let us like imagine, for example, I have like a lot of pens here, and I want to select one of them. So if I want to write something on my note, I need to select the pen first. And then once I have it in my hand, I can open it and write and do whatever I want. But a lot of students actually forget to do this step, and they forget to take the pen with them, and they keep saying, oh, I want to write, and like how you are supposed to write, exactly the same. We need to do that with Praat. So you need to say which object you are working on, and then you can ask the functions that can be done on that object. So for example, if I'm holding in my hand the green pen, and I say, write red sentence, like a sentence in red, it will not work. Why? Because I'm asking Praat to do a function on the wrong object. So it's exactly the same. So you need to ask Praat or select first the object and then work on it. And I always advise you to keep selecting the object while you are going, because sometimes when we generate, for example, a new object or something, and then Praat select it, and you are not really sure that it changed the selection. So every time you are doing a specific function, select the right object first. And also one thing which is a little bit annoying on Praat is that, for example, if you selected one object, and then you say, select another one, so it will leave the one in hand and select the other one. Okay, we keep forgetting that, because sometimes I used to do these mistakes a lot, where I'm selecting the sound, and now I want to select the textigrade. And at the end, I found that they only have the textigrade. Why? Because I only used select object, and it selected only one object, and I didn't use plus object. If I said plus object, then they will have both of them. If I only said again select object, it will leave the object in hand and use the other one. Okay, and of course you can remove at the end, and I advise you to do that, kind of to clean up your memory, because Praat have a limited memory. What I mean by that, it have a limits of the number of objects that can appear here in the object window. So you don't really need to run into the problem of having a lot of objects in the memory, and then it will stop working, and you have no idea why it stopped now, because it's a full memory. So while you are working, of course, and opening new object and using and selecting them, once you are done with them, just remove the object from the object window. How to remove it? Just select it first, and they say remove. And then it means that it will remove it totally from the memory, and then you are saving space for more objects to be open. Yeah, so my advice now is, of course, to select the right object. I mean, it's a little bit basics, and I know that, of course, everyone says, yes, it makes sense. You will be so surprised how many errors you will get because you selected the wrong object, and you're trying to do a function which will not work on that object. And the problem with Praat is that when you have an error, you will say, okay, you have an error in line 100, but then there is no information about what type of error is it. So you have to come up what happened. And usually it's a selection problem. So for example, as I mentioned, if you have textigrade in your hand and then you want to extract part, like audio part, of course it will not work. So always select the right object before conducting your function. Another thing, now we will move to like, oh, when I'm writing, try to have a lot of comments. If this is your first like programming language, you will run into the problem of like, oh yeah, definitely, it's easy. I know what this script is doing, so I don't need to comment it. But trust me, like after months or like half a year or even a year, and then you try to use the same script again, you will have no idea what the script is doing. And you will need to read it again and try, oh, this is like what this variable is doing, what this function is doing. You know, you will forget about it. So just help your future self and comment your script. Like write down what the script was, for example, at the beginning, what the main function of that script is. Every time you have like any part of your script, write what this part exactly is doing. Your future self will thank you for it. And how we do that in Praat, it's easy. It's just you have this like hashtag, and at the beginning of the line, and this is important because sometimes if you have it in the middle of the line, like you have already one line script, and then you want to add a comment, it will not work. It will produce an error. But you would need to have this step from the beginning of the line. You have the hashtag, and you can write whatever you want. And of course, if you are in the following line, you will need to repeat it again to have the hashtag at the beginning. Okay, so definitely this is the main advice here. Like, don't forget to comment your script. Okay, now let's go to the annoying part. When you will, I mean, of course, a lot of us have this problem. When you download something online and then you open it and you see really long name of something and you have no idea what this is. Is it a variable? Is it a function? So what is variable? What is function? How can I see or identify what the name in front of me is? Basically, variables is a container. So let's say I have here like a cup in my hand. This is a container, right? The container itself doesn't have any value. It's empty. But when I add something into it, so if I add coffee, then it's a coffee cup. When I add tea, then it's a cup of tea. So it has its value from what I include inside it. So why we do that? Because then if I have something in a container, then I can reuse it again during my script. This is exactly what variables is doing. So the variables, you have a name, okay, and then it's a container, and then you add something to it. You can add number, for example, a value that you can reuse it again later in your script. Of course, if you're using something for one time only, you don't really need to have a variable for it. But usually variables, so you can store a value where you can repeatedly use it during your script. And as I mentioned, variables in itself, it doesn't have a value. It had the value from what you include inside it. In Praat, you have two types of variables. You have either numeric variables, which basically include numbers, or a string variable. It's not a string, it's basically means that characters or text, or text basically. So you have these two types of variables in Praat. But how can I identify this is a variable? First of all, you will see it when it starts with a small letter. So all variables will start with small letters. Okay, this is really important because as I mentioned before, I said that functions start with capital. So this is a way for Praat to know the difference. So variables is small letter, functions is capital letter. And so all the variables start with a small letter, and then you will see like equal next to it. Why I'm saying that, like equal if I want to add something to the value for it. Why I'm saying that? Because usually people advise that you have the name for the variable, like meaningful name. So if the variable is number of interval in a text grid, you just say like num of interval somehow, like all of course next to each other, there is no space. But people usually use really, really large names for variables, so you will not forget what the variables is about. But then when you download it online, you have no idea why this really big line or name is for. So you will know it how that it's only the first one, the first letter is a small letter. And as I mentioned, we have two types. So the string variable also have something adding to it is by the end of the name, you have this $sign. So the $sign is a way of saying to Praat that this variable will contain text. Okay, and there is two ways of adding value to a string variable. You basically have it between quotes. So here, for example, I have this variable $sign. So for Praat, now we know it's string variables. How? Because I have a $sign and a small letter, and equal, and then between quotes I have the text. Or I can add a function. Okay, function is basically like a group of a script of line of programming where it can do something and then return a value. So if this function return a string, then I can store it in a string variable. Okay, like for example, get label of interval. Of course, it's a function because it starts with capital letter. From its meaning, you can kind of guess what it does. It basically get the label from interval, because you have a text grid, you have intervals, and then what's inside the interval is basically the label. So get me the label, and that's it. Of course, whatever label is, it will, for example, vowels or so, it's a text. So put this text in the label $sign, then this is a string variable. So basically, we have two ways of adding value to string variables, either with codes or having a function which return a string. And the second type of variables is numeric variables. Numeric variables is easy. You don't really need to add the $sign to it. So you have the variable and equal, and then you have number. So for example, db equal 60, just a number, okay? So which means that this is a numeric variable, will contain number. The same like in a string, if a function return a number, I can store it in a numeric variable. So for example, get number of string, of course, it looks like it will get number. I can add it to the n files, for example, like number of files as a variable, or get intensity, for example. All of this will return like numeric value, so I can store it in a numeric variable. Okay, so yeah, of course, the advice here is to use the right variable syntax, which means like adding the $sign if it's a string, and in both of them you have to start with a small letter. Okay. Okay, now let's say if we have a string like the name of a file. Okay, like if I have a recording of my voice, for example, and it's called omnia.wave. This is a text, and I can have it in a string variable, like for example, file name. I can do some operation on that text, either by concatenating meaning putting them together. So I have two string, two text, and I put them next to each other. Or I can truncate. Truncate is basically like reduce or remove some part of that text. So we use this a lot, actually, when we have like file names and I have like all the audio in one folder, and we want to get only the base name, the name only of the file, and then we have like file name minus .wave. Then here is basically we'll have the name only. So I have omnia.wave, and here it will have only omnia. Why we are doing this? Because usually when we try to open audio file, we try to open a text grid next to it, which usually has the same name. So we get all the audio file in a folder, and then each time we say, okay, like just remove .wave, so we have the base name, and then we can open the audio file and the text grid file. So you will see this a lot in scripts. So this is basically how we do it. Either like you concatenate, adding text to each other, or remove part of the text. For the numeric variables is number. So basically we can do all the operations that we want. It's totally fine. It's normal because at the end it's a number. So you can like add, you can subtract, you can multiply, you can division, you can do all of this operation normally. So there's no problem of that. So it's actually an additional thing, because sometimes you will see like the slash where the division, and you see a lot of like big names next to it, and you have no idea. No, it means that you have numeric variables and you are dividing between them. Okay. Now we are going through like the syntax one by one, basically. So all of these things you will, of course, it's really easy when you have it alone, but then when you open a script, it's totally easy to feel overwhelmed. So trust me, after all of these years of experience, sometimes I have no idea what the script is doing when I first look at them. So yeah, now I'm like basically telling you like small parts of it, and then later we can look at a full script together. Okay, for loop. For loop is basically, sometimes we will need to do the same command or the same order multiple times. And there is no need to just repeat the same line multiple times. Of course, it doesn't make sense. So in any programming language, not only Praat, you will have some way of making a loop in your script. Basically, a loop is defining a block of code and then say, do this block of code now like this number of times, like repeated 10 times, repeated 100 times, okay? So you have like a specific code and you repeat it again. So what is the syntax for that on Praat? So you have like the keywords is for, it's called for loop, so the keyword is for, and anything you open in Praat, you have to close it. So if you say for, you have to say end for. Because as I mentioned, I want to say, like, we have a block of code that we want to repeat. We need to mention to Praat where this code starts and where it ends. Because of course it will not just keep like repeating all the script that you have. It's only the code that you mentioned. So you have for and you have end for. And then you have, like, say, I from 1 to n iterations. What this means. First of all, after for, you will have a numeric variable. This numeric, like for example, I. This variable is the variable that will change in for. So for, let's say I will want to repeat this code 10 times. So at beginning, I will equal 1. And then when it ends, it will equal 2. And then 3, and then 4. So it will be the variable that will change around the for loop. And as you see that I never mentioned I before. So this is the first time you will write this variable here. And this is also for you, because sometimes when you have like a big name and you have like, okay, it was never mentioned before. Yeah, because this is the variable for the loop. Okay, it will only mention next to 4. And then it's optional. Either you say from 1, I mean, there is no added value here because the default that it will start with 1. Sometimes if you want to start it from 2, it's fine. So you don't really need to write for 1. But if you want to write it, you can write it from 1. 2, and then you have another numeric variable. This numeric variable, you have to have it before. Why? Because this is the end of the loop. Okay, I will do this script. How many times? This is exactly what the how many times answer. So here, iteration is 5. So here it will go around 5 times. And then it will just go after the loop. After 5, and when it becomes 6, it will just go outside of this loop and it will continue the script as normal. Okay, this is really important. So if you don't mention it in your script, it will actually introduce errors, which is actually a good thing because other programming languages usually never like give error for that, and then you go to infinite loop and your code crash. Now you know why it crashed, because it goes basically, you never mention where to stop. So this is really important to have like the end of the iteration. When exactly do we use for loop? I mean, it's really common to use it when you have like a lot of files, right, in a folder, because you want to do all the analysis on all of them. So you will take these files one by one. So it's normal to have a loop where you do exactly the same analysis in each file of them. Okay, so it's pretty common to use for loop, and also pretty common to have like more for loops inside the for loops, as we will see later. So just remember to end, like when you have for, you have to end for. Now let's go. So for example, let's see what we have here. The first thing is create strings as file list. This is a function. How did I know? It starts with capital letter and it have like a verb, right? Like create something, get something. So usually functions in Praat really easily to identify. Here, basically this line goes to a folder, which I already specify here, and collect all the .wav file in this folder. Usually this is where my data is, right? Where I have all my recordings. And then here, you have a numeric variable. How did I know? Because it starts with a small letter and there is no $sign. And it will include function, which include like a return number. Get number of string, which string? This one. You have noticed here, I didn't really put like select this list. Why? Because in Praat, when it create object, it's selected already. So it's already selected. But don't really overuse this function, because if you have a lot of script, there is no harm of like having a line in between, say, select the list that you just created. Okay, get number of string is basically, well, see the number of lines in this list where you have the audio files. And then you want to go over this list one by one. So you have I from 1, so this is the first value of n files. N files will be the number of audio files in the folder. Here, select object again. You see, like it's already selected, but I just selected here. Every time you have a for loop, you have to select the object again. Why? Because you never know what happened inside the for loop that you might already selected a different object. Just reselect it again, just to be on the safe side. So selected object, the string file, this is the first line. And then you get the string of I. I here equal 1, because this is the first time the script is running. Equal 1. So, which means the first line in the list, the first audio file in the list, the name of the first audio file in the list. And then you can read from file, and then you add the name, and here this line will bring in the memory in the object window, will open the sound object with that name. And then I can do whatever I want, okay, with this file. But basically, the loop here is going through like the audio files I have. After that, N4 will increase I with 1, with plus 1. So then I becomes 2. And then it will read the second name. And then the third, the fourth, and then it keeps going until you have the last file that you have in your list. And then when will I increase by 1, it will go outside of this range, and then it will continue your script. Of course, you will see, or definitely we need in any programming language. I mean, for loop and if condition is basically, the basics of any programming language. You need a way of making a condition in your script. If you see something, do this code. If not, do another thing. Usually we use it a lot. For example, in text grad, I want to, for example, extract the vowel formats. So usually I would say if the label is vowel, then go and extract the vowel formats. But else, if it's not, which means it's a consonant or a pause or silence or anything, of course, like do something else. Okay, I don't want to extract vowel formats from consonant, of course, you know. So usually we'll use this a lot where you have a condition. If something happened, if this condition happened is true, then do something. If it's not, do a different thing. And so what is the syntax for it, how to write it? So you have to have if, which is basically the keywords for it. And as I mentioned for, when you open anything, you have to end it, to finish it as well. So if, and then you have to have end if. And if here must, for example, have a condition. Condition, for example, I less than 20. This is a condition. If it happens, what it means? It happens if I, the value of I, which is a numeric value, if the value of I is less than 20, if it's 10, for example, then this condition is true. Then do something, do this line. Else if, when I use else if okay, this doesn't happen, but then I want to ask or add additional condition. So then I use else if, and then ask another condition. So else if I equal 20, so here I have this condition. If it's true, like I value is 20, then do this line. And then else, when else will happen? If I is not equal or less than 20, which means that I is larger than 20, then do this line of script. And as I mentioned, at the end, I need to have end if. So this is the if condition. It's really important, and you would need it a lot because, as I mentioned, when you have annotation, when you go through a text grid, you would need to specify exactly what the analysis is coming from, because this is really, really important in Praat script, and it's your responsibility, which is know exactly where you are extracting your values. Because, for example, it once happened, and actually it happened from a professor, not like a beginner in Praat script, where he was extracting the vowel formants, but mistakenly, instead of selecting the vowel itself, where I can extract the vowel formants, he was extracting vowel formants from the full sentence. Praat didn't show any errors. He had a really huge table with numbers and everything, but of course it doesn't mean anything. It's just noise. Because it was actually our mistake. We need to be careful what we extracting the values from. That's why we are using if conditions here, just to be sure. You know, like in my script, I always, for example, for vowel formants, I specify like saying if label equal E, U, or all the vowels that I have in my data sets, just put them by like symbols, all of them, shows us to be sure that the vowel formants that I have in my table is actually comes from a vowel, just to be on safe side. Okay, so if condition, of course, we would need to use it a lot. So for sure, the advice here is always remember to end the for loop and if condition. So you have end if or end for. You will also be like see a lot of errors comes from that, and as I mentioned, Praat always have error, and you have like error in this line, and they never say what the error is. Sometimes it says like, oh, there is no end for or end if, but then most of time it's only like a generic error. So every time you start a for loop, just have end for before writing anything else. The same with if condition. When you have if condition, you start it, just end it, just to be in the safe side and like not forgetting anything. Okay. Now we can try some Praat demo where basically I want to show you a script that I'm using a lot actually, and see if we can read it together or not. Like with everything I mentioned today. I mean, I am assuming that you're not really familiar with Praat script, so I'm relying on what I already mentioned now. Let's see if we will be able to read it together or not. Okay. This is just a script that I'm using, and we will go with it together. Because it's kind of what you will see in also if any script that you downloaded online, you will see something similar. So let's go with it line by line and see if we can understand what happens or not. First of all, it has this form, okay? And it says form and end form. So we have no idea what this is. I mean, I never mentioned it, right? But from the name of it, like form, okay, it's basically what I use to collect information from the user. When you write, I mean, any programming language, you would need to get information from the user, okay? I mean, I didn't mention that in my talk today, but it's of course it's pretty common, right? Because for example, what we ask our user for is where your data is, right? I mean, which folder is it? Of course, you have all your laptop. Like the script will not just go around and search for the data, right? So you have to mention exactly where's the folder where all the data is. So first of all, the Praat or the script here asks the user like where the audio is, or like where the folder is. Okay, I will not really go a lot about what's here because it could be confusing for some people, because this is basically a variable name, but in a capital letter, because variables inside form is kind of strange in Praat, and I don't really want to go for it because then it will get really confusing for you, but just trust me, okay, this is a variable. And this variable, you can read after where here, like this variable basically becomes this one. How? Because it's a string variable, so it added the $sign and it goes back to small letters. So I can use this variable anywhere in my script, this file only. pay attention for that, because sometimes a script can call another script, another file. The variables will not be global, you know, it will not go to the other one as well. Just pay attention for that. But we can go for it later. And then we have this line. This one, it looks like a variable because it's equal next to it. It's a special type of variable because it's a list. Here it have create strings as file list. It looks like a function. Why? Because it have a capital letter. It have a verb at beginning, create. So it means it's a function. Function mean it's a group of script that will happen if you ask for this function and will return a value. And so for the script to create this file, it needs to know what list should I create? Because basically here I'm asking it to create a list of what? Create a list of all the audio files in the folder that the user mentioned. So here this line say, go to the folder, get all the file where it have .wave. Yeah, this one means like whatever name it is, but it have .wave at the end. And then you have list of audio files, the name of the audio files in this this list. Then, which is normal, right? We go for the list and we have all files. And then now we need to have a for loop where I go through all like file by file. So I can do whatever analysis I want, right? Because you can't like extract vowel formats from all the files at once. No, you need to open file like one by one. So here it will, because I want to have a for loop, so I need to say when it ends. When it ends, when the end of the file, the file list. So if the list have 10, then this function will return 10 files. Here is a for loop. Of course, I open the for loop, I have to end it. It will be somewhere at the end, like here in 4. Which means this is the loop. This is the part of the script which will be repeated 10 number or like 10 times if the number of files is 10. Okay, so select object, as I mentioned, every time we have for loop, we have to select the object, the right object at beginning, so I know exactly that we are working in the right object. And in that object, which is basically the file list that we just created, and then you have get a string of I file. I file here is the variable, the numeric variable next to the 4, which is the loop variable. So at beginning, it will be 1, equal 1. So this line, this function will get the name of the first file in the list. It will be to have it in this string variable. And then, because usually we have, like as I mentioned, the audio and the text grid with the same name. So we want to have the base name only. So you have name equal. As we said, we can truncate some part of the text. We can remove some part of the text. So you have the file, which could be omnia.wave, and then minus.wave, which will return only the name of the file, which is omnia, for example. And then we go and read the file. So read from file, and you mention the name .wave. We return back .wave because Praat needs to know what type of object is it. So it needs to know the extension. So if I have here .wave, then it will return audio or sound object. If it's like textigrad, then it will return the textigrad. Okay, so read from file, and then this is the sound. I can also have, if I have a textigrad, I will have exactly the same line, but at the end, .textigrad, okay, which will return the textigrad. Here, I mean, you don't really need to about it now, but this one, when you inside the script, when you see that they say run script, it means that this file is calling a script, another file, okay, to be run, and then return. So Praat works line by line. So it executes the first line and then go to the second line and the third and so forth. So if it goes to run the script, so it will stop here, go and run another file, and then return to the same line. It will return here. Okay. So what this file is doing, or what this script is doing, is I name it like function create text grid. Basically, this create text grid where it have the voiced versus voiceless part, intervals of the C. It's automatically script here. So it usually needs the name of the script, the file, what's the name of the file, and of course I need to have it exactly next to this script. And then you have these numbers or values, also sometimes text. It's, as I mentioned, it's the parameters that the function will ask for it to be used. It's exactly what's the values for the form at the beginning of the following script. Okay, so this script will return a text grid. So I need to select it in my hand because I will do other things with it. So we have select object, sound, comma, text grid. So by this, I have the sound object and the text grid object with me. Then I can do whatever I want with it. Here I have the first if condition. The if condition here, because now I have the sound and text grid. So most likely I need to go through the text grid, through the intervals, and do something. Do, for example, like find the duration. What's called? Like go through the intervals in general. Like I want to extract the vowel formats, for example. Okay. So here it's ask again to run a script, and I give it the name of the script. And then there is comma, and then there is a number. This number, basically, as I mentioned, will be the answer to the form in that other file. Okay. This if condition, I can say it later, not now, because it has a reason, but you will see it in the other file. Okay. And then end for. What end for will do? So as you can see here, the for at the beginning, I file was 1. So I had the name of the first file in the list. And then I go and I ask for the sound file, and then I created a text grid, and I had this sound and text grid to another script to do something else. Then by end4, I file will be +1. +1 becomes 2. And then it means that it will go to the second name in the list and do exactly the same thing. It will read the sound with that name and will create a text grid and then select both of them and give it to the next script. It will keep happening until when N4 and then I file becomes the number of like the end of this +1. So for example, let's say we had like 10 files and then it becomes 11, then it means it's outside of that range. Then it will go outside of this and it will continue the script. So it will remove the I file, the file list, which was the list where we have the audio files. So here, this is an example of a real script. As I mentioned, I'm using it a lot. What does it? It does it basically go for a folder, collect all the audio file in that folder, and go through it one by one to do a specific task, and then it will return. That's it. So this is what this file is doing. Okay. So as you can see, we use the same, like all the small syntax that we talk already through the talk today. We see all of them one by one, how the for loop is. If I already know the fundamentals of for loop, we will understand what the for loop here means. If we have the fundamentals of if condition, of like how to create the file list and all of this, it will be easy for us to read like a ready script downloaded online. Just one last slide I want to show, maybe.
Yeah, we will. Yeah.
So because I it's an advice I give to my students, and I want to give it to you as well.
Okay, thank you.
Well, this one. Okay, I hope, yes, it's here.
Yeah.
Oh, this one? No, no, don't worry, this one. Yes. So,
Oh yeah, no, very nice.
before it was really, I mean, I don't want to say it was a really long time ago. It was like when I started my PhD, we didn't have large language models. We didn't have ChatGPT or anything. And I don't know why, I'm not sure how is it in your class, Pinar, but professors, they get scared when students use like large language models like ChatGPT or Gemini or whatever they are using. I mean, use it to your advantage. I mean, if you have if you downloaded a script online, and we do this a lot, that we download a script and it's too long and it's overwhelming and you have no idea where to go from it. You use ChatGPT. I mean, upload the file and then use the right prompt where you're asking, okay, can you parse this script for me and giving a lot of add comments and maybe describe it for me, and then it will give you really, really good results. I mean, I used it for Python, not for Praat script, but I would say it will be actually the same, and it will help you exactly to know what each part of the script is doing, and then it will help you if you want to remove maybe a certain part that you don't need, or it changed something a little bit. And I use this a lot as well, where I mention, okay, I want to switch these numbers from this to that, and then it tells me exactly which line where I should go, and it changes this number. So use it, if it will make your life easier, why not? Right?
Yeah.
Don't be scared. Definitely don't trust it 100%. I mean, you are still the one in control. But if it can help you, why not? To be honest, I mean, I always advise my students to use it. I don't care when they use it for their assignments. I mean, it's a good sign that you're doing something. So it's okay as well. Here.